Hello, today we're going to go over on Salesforce's Build a Simple Flow project. The first part, collect contact info from your user. We're going to follow along with Salesforce's introduction to flows for this building a simple flow. And we're just going to go a little bit more in depth than what Salesforce offers here. Um, this intro flow, they mostly just want you to get used to clicking around and just being inside of Flow Builder, but they don't really explain the why of everything that you're doing. So it was very hard to create your own flow just using this example because it just tells you what to do and not why you're doing it. So hopefully today we can go over a little bit of the why of the things you're doing. All right, so I have a new flow. Um, We're going to create a flow and add a screen. All right, under the screen properties for label, we're entering contact info. So far, it is pretty self-explanatory. So this label right here, this is what you're going to be able to see from outside of the element. So you want it to be as descriptive as possible. So when you're looking at multiple elements in a flow, you know what each element is doing. All right. And in free flow, you do have to manually connect each element together, or in auto layout, probably because it's still in beta, maybe that's why they are going straight for the free form. Oh, looks like it wants us to give the flow a name. And I'm going to go ahead and just do it camel case style. All right. Okay, the next thing it wants us to do is create a record variable for the contact. Because you plan to capture contact information from the user, let's create a record variable to store the contact record. All right. So over here, you go to the Manager tab and click New Resource. And the resource type is a variable. Let's see what it wants us to name it. For the API name, enter contact. All right. I mean, that's not bad. It is correct. I typically, when I name my variables, I'll actually put var or something in the beginning to kind of like differentiate this contact from the generic contact object so that I know I'm specifically talking about a variable. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and do that now so that you can more clearly see when we're using a variable versus the contact object throughout this flow. And for your description, you just want to make sure that it's, very detailed so that people, future admins coming in, know exactly what this is for. So this is store the contact information that is given in the screen flow. All right, and the data type is record because we are going to be storing multiple fields from the contact object into this one variable right here. All right, and then Salesforce says best practice is if you don't know what you need, check input and leave output off. And then voila, here it is. All right, so basically what this is about is you have your screen right here and you can add all the different fields that you want to here that the end user is inputting the data. And then where does that data go? Nowhere? I mean, kind of, yes. You have to connect it to something outside of just the screen. So the thing that it's connecting to is going to be this variable. So anytime they enter something in here, it's going to get stored in this variable contact record. All right, so we're going to go back to our screen and add a name input component. And then here it has contact name. And as you can see, the API name, this is called camel case. It's a naming convention where you write without spaces and you just have each new word capitalized. And the first letter can be capitalized or it can be left lowercase in this case. All right, see it says scroll down to click advanced and make sure manually assign variables is selected. All right, so you can see here it says search for variables. This is where our variable over here on the side comes in. So it's basically, where's this information going? We're going to store it in this variable over here so that we can use it later and it doesn't just stay on the screen and go nowhere. All right, as you can see, it says go down to first name and it has this contact.firstname. Our case is going to be var contact for variable contact. And we just go on down to first name. You'll notice this is the same merge fields that they use in the email templates, the same form, except in this case, it's going to only reference things that are found here in the flow. So if you haven't created a variable for it, then it's not going to show up as available here. What's going to show up is only your variables from over here and your resources that you have created, and also the global variables. But in this case, because we are selecting variables, only our resources over here, specifically our variables. Variables are a special type of resource in that they can get assigned values from inside the flow. So that is what's happening right now. They are getting assigned a value. So we're just going to do the same thing for the last name. All right, we're going to create a record choice set for accounts. So we're creating a new resource, selecting record choice set from the type, and we're going to enter in all this information. All right, so what it wants us to do is to create a record choice set over here in our resources so that we can reference that resource over here in our screen flow, so that this person, whenever they're creating a new account, they're not just entering the first and last name. We also want them to be able to find that person's account that they're attached to. So in order to have them have access to all of the different accounts that they have access to, we need to pull in the account information into the flow. And so to bring that account information into the flow, we create a new resource. All right, so it's a record choice set because we're bringing a whole list of records. We're not just bringing one. I'm going to go ahead and type the resource type, record choice set, so that when you see this further down as we use it in the future, you'll be able to see that this is not just the account object. These are the accounts that we brought in through this resource. All right, and we are getting all of the accounts. All right, so we're getting the account name because that's what they will recognize. But we actually want to store the ID. So this choice label, this is the field that's going to pop up for them to select. And the information we're going to store is going to be the ID. All right, in the store more account fields value section, complete these steps to take the user selected account and store its ID in the contact field. All right, so basically what this is saying, store more account field values, it wants to know what happens once the user selects a choice. So the field that they are, once they select a name, it's going to record the ID, and we want to save the ID inside our resource variable over here. So the field that we want to save is the account ID. And we want it saved in our contact variable that we created over here. That's where we're going to keep all of our records until the very end when we're creating a new contact. So basically, just another way we're going to assign another value to here. We're going to pull in all of these accounts in order for them to appear as a choice on the screen flow. And then once a choice is made, it's going to send that account ID and store it in this variable, the contact variable. It's a whole record variable, so it stores all the fields of a single record. And because it is a variable, we can assign it values throughout the flow. All right, it wants us to add a pick list component just below the name. So that pick list component is going to be for the accounts. All right, so this label is going to be what the person viewing our screen, our end user, will see. So you see right now it has pick list in brackets. I just typed account, and when I click away, it changes to account. All right, so you come down here and you see it's required to have a choice. And once again, the only choice that we have is this resource that we just created over here. We would not be able to input anything for it to choose from if we had not pre-created that resource over here. Which you can see my record choice set accounts. So hopefully my naming convention helps you see the difference between choosing just an accounts object. All right, we're adding a toggle input component to the screen. All right, and then this one has a nice long label for us. It has a very helpful toggle label already named, and here you can see it shows up. And as you can see, our whole sentence appears right here. All right, these active labels and the disabled labels, these are what appears when you toggle it on and off underneath it. And that helps your user know what they are selecting. All right, you can see here that with the inactive label, it has appeared since this toggle is showing inactive. Luckily, it does not want us to manually assign variables this time. All right, we are going to save that. All right, so run the flow. At this point, you can collect contact information from the user and store that information in the flow variables. So on ours, it's talking about our variable contact record that's holding all the fields of a contact that we are collecting. And it wants us to run our flow. And its example was just Ling Wu with Edge Communications. And you can see we have a little toggle. So this is the whole screen that they would see, and nothing happens because we have not finished the flow. However, we have finished the first module in the Build a Simple Flow series, and hopefully my explaining it a little more and visually showing what's going on. They do go into it and mention a little bit what's going on in here, but I know for myself, I just needed a little bit more time absorbing and a little bit more repetition. Okay, why are we doing that? You know, and I'm hoping that this has helped you understand a little bit more about what these variables are all about and what they're for. All right, until next time, I hope you learned something.